Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Alexandra Dorca. I'm the Executive Director of l'Alliance Française de Seattle. And just to give you a quick heads up about this project, basically when we went online a year ago, in the COVID context, we had this idea to create talks, 15-minute talks, followed by Q&As. You can find the previous ones, the 2020, on our website or on our YouTube channel. Don't forget the website, it's afseattle.org. And we are very happy and honored to come back this year in 2021 with les Rencontres de l'Alliance. And we welcome Thierry Rautureau. I'm sure you all know him as the chef in the hat, but Thierry Rautureau is more than the chef in the hat, and I would like to thank him on behalf of l'Alliance Française de Seattle for his time and expertise, because he's the vice president of the Alliance Française. So thank you so much. We will launch the talk, so 15 minutes, and then we will take your questions. Diane Lelay, who's our program manager, she's online, so she will collect them, and we will follow the talk with a Q&A. Thank you so much, everyone. Alors, c'est à ton tour, Thierry.
Bienvenue à l'Alliance Française, les Rencontres de l'Alliance. Alors, first thing is open a bottle of wine, pour halfway through the glass, put the rest back at the bottle. Keep the bottle on the side. If it's red, put the white back in the fridge, unless it doesn't need it. And let's cheer. Let's all cheer and have a wonderful evening. We're already in March, so let's hurry up. The year's going to be over before we know it. And you know who's going to be out of town before we know it? Mr. COVID himself came unannounced and will leave gladly. All right. I'm Thierry Rautureau, the chef in the hat. Born and raised in a very, born in a very small village in France, in a small house, stone house. Strangely enough, I was born on the kitchen table. Back then, if we would have found a phone and then called a doctor, and the doctor would have come, by the time he would have shown up, I would have probably been already like a year old. So you gave birth, sadly enough, for my mom on the kitchen table. And I was born on the kitchen table. So possibly there's already a sign here that I should be in the kitchen. However, so I grew up in a very small village in France, in the town of Saint-Hilaire-de-Clisson. Then I moved to the town next. My parents moved and bought a house in the town next door, a small town also, Saint-Hilaire-de-Loulay, which is where I'm actually raised and from 7 years old on. And that's the name that I choose to one of my restaurants. I have two restaurants in Seattle. One is Luc in Madison Valley, 28 and Madison. Luc is a bistro-style, feel-good restaurant named after my dad, who passed away 15 years ago. He was a good man, just a very good man. Very simple, not rich, but absolutely full of love, and that was the richness in the house. He taught me well. Excuse me. So Luc is in Madison Valley, and then the other restaurant is downtown Seattle called Loulay Kitchen and Bar. Unfortunately, because of COVID, Loulay's been closed since July 15 of last year. We don't know where we're going with this one. I have no idea how far we're going to go in terms of keeping it around. I'd like to reopen it at some time, but the sometime keeps getting postponed, and it becomes a lot more expensive each time we wait longer to reopen it. Yes, it is very expensive to reopen a restaurant. What else can I tell you? So at the age 14, I had two choices. Either I would keep going to school and go to a baccalaureate degree for another few more years, or I could enter a apprenticeship program, state run, with a good chef, I guess, and would be a 2-year program where you learn a bunch of recipes and everything. And you basically learn your trade as an apprentice. Unfortunately, I was supposed to go in a beautiful, really nice hotel, great chef. Unfortunately, my cousin, who was already working there, which is how I got the connection, messed it up for me. And at the last minute, the owner said, "We're not taking any more apprentices." So I had to cross struggle and find a place to go. Found this place, turned out to be a nightmare for 2 years. But I promised myself that whatever has been done to me for 2 years of physical, mental, and all kind of abuse, then I would never do that to anybody, because it certainly didn't feel good. Anyway, move on, graduated, move on to different part of France, work in the Mont Saint-Michel, and actually lived and stayed in the Mont Saint-Michel for 7 months. There's 22 people living in the Mont Saint-Michel, and I was one of them. If you've never been to Normandy in France, it is a gorgeous part of France. Not only the beach, the débarquement, World War II and all that, but there's also great, beautiful landscape in and out of the ocean. Anyway, then I went to a different part of France, completely on the other side. I went to Chamonix in the Alps, and again, stayed there for 7-8 months, a whole winter season. And definitely learned a different type of cooking there. And then from that, I went to the Basque region of France in Hendaye, which is just south of Saint-Jean-de-Luz in the Basque country at the border of Spain. And what a beautiful experience. Very, very unknown to me when I got there, and definitely beautiful part of France. I recommend it. Very few American tourists down there. I recommend it if you have a trip to France. Try to go that whole region, way south of Bordeaux. So anyway, and then I went to the army, did a year of army time. And of course, when I came out of the army, which was a complete waste of time because I was just cooking for the general. And I mean, it was like a regular job in a very private restaurant. And I had a lot of fun, but it was a complete waste of time for me. Anyway, I was looking for a job, and I saw a little ad in a local paper that we had, and it said looking for cook in USA. And I joked and I said, "Wow, let me try that." Sure enough, 5 weeks later, I was in Chicago, Illinois, October 17, 1978. And I came with a tourist visa, stayed for 2 months. The guy told me he was going to pay me, never paid me. He didn't really, his restaurant was not really a restaurant. It was, anyway, I got duped. I had a ticket to go back to France, and I had $12 left in my pocket. And the next day was the plane. And I was so sad because I didn't want to go back. And this night I met a French guy who was working in another restaurant, a French restaurant. He bought me a beer, and he said, "Well, we're looking for cooks in the restaurant where we are." So I said, "Well, you know what? The heck with it. I'm going to stay here and give it another shot." So I stayed. Needless to say, I was illegal for 2 years. And then I worked in this restaurant where there was 5 Mexicans in the kitchen, and none of them spoke a word of English. So strangely enough, the first language I learned in America was Spanish in the kitchen. And then from then on, got, all the paperwork legalized, blah, 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 all that stuff. So, and then I stayed at La Fontaine in Chicago for 3.5 years. There I met a very good friend of mine, still my best friend, Cyril. And we moved together to Los Angeles because we wanted to go where the sun was, tired of the brisk Chicago winter. I must say, people in Chicago are awesome, but the weather, you can definitely have it. If you're not born in it, I don't know how you take that. Los Angeles, there we worked in a private club in close to Beverly Hills, in Westwood actually, and then I worked into an Italian restaurant. A friend of mine became the chef in an Italian restaurant, and he was begging me to go, and I was like, I don't want to go cook pasta. And anyway, I became the daytime chef, and he was the nighttime chef. Excuse me. So there in that restaurant, I met this beautiful woman who who I didn't even think I was going to have a chance with, but turned out to be my wife. My lovely wife, Kathy, was a server in the front of the house. And strangely enough, she's the one who asked me out. she needed a French guy to occupy her best girlfriend's husband, who was French. Well, I had other things in mind, and 3 years later, we got married. We got married in Los Angeles, and then we moved from Los Angeles to, after Mangia, I became the executive sous chef in a restaurant called the 7th Street Bistro downtown Los Angeles, where we did some unbelievable, fabulous, gorgeous food. It was so much fun. And after 3.5 years, I was like, I want to go do my own stuff. So anyway, moved to Seattle, came to Seattle to visit Cyril, who had moved up here on Easter weekend. Went to this little restaurant that just got a review in the LA Times called Rovers. This restaurant was about 10 months old, and the owner, who was from LA, was like really not happy with being in Seattle. He was like, these people don't know anything about food. You have to remember, this is 1987. Well, they don't know anything about food, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I want to sell the restaurant. I'm like, you don't want to do that yet. Just wait. You're going to be king of the hill in this place. Anyway, he had no patience and he wanted to go back. So him and his family left, bought the restaurant. And I had a partner for the first 2.5 years. Then I bought her out and I've been solo ever since. Rovers was quite a beautiful lifetime achievement for me. I had so much fun in that restaurant. Every day, creating some incredible stuff that we just had a blast making with the whole team. The whole kitchen, the front of the house, the wine. Cyril, my best man, is a sommelier, and he knows all about wine. So he was the one in charge he was the sommelier of the house. And we really had a blast for 26 years in that restaurant. It was really, really fun. We had a 5-course menu. We had a 5-course vegetarian in 1988 in Seattle. Every day, 5 days a week. We had a 5-course vegetarian then. People were like, why are you having a fancy vegetarian dinner? And I was like, because I'm tired of looking at vegetarian menu in Seattle and all it says is lentils, beans, and potatoes. I'm like, and rice. And I was like, those people are not in jail. They're not sick. They want to eat vegetables. I'm like, why don't you treat all the local product correctly? Anyway, it was actually very successful. And then the 26 years at Rovers went really fast. Fabulous time. And then from then, about 10 years ago, we opened Luc next door. The corner of the Madison and 28th. Rovers was right behind Luc. The corner came up for lease, and I was like, I got to take this space. This space is my favorite corner. It's where I go by every night and wonder why there's no lights here. It's life. So we opened Luc, and Luc is definitely a good bistro. Right now, Luc is serving bœuf bourguignon, cassoulet, a nice mixed salad, soup, 2 desserts to go. Everything cold, ready to go. All you have to do is pop it in the oven or in the microwave, if that's your choice, and warm it up and enjoy. We also, every week or every 2 weeks, we do what we call a menu box. Last week, we did a 5-course vegan menu. It was unbelievably successful. And this week, we're doing a 5-course vegetarian menu. So I'm going to do a little advertising. Go to luc2go.com. Shameless. And then, Lule, like I said, is kind of like the urban bistro, the modern urban bistro. Beautiful restaurant. We had so much fun designing that restaurant. It was incredible. Balcony, private room, booth, Hollywood booth. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. Am I done?
We have many questions, Thierry.
Okay, go ahead. Hit me.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. Don't forget, you can still send us your questions in the Q&A. And so let's start with Nidia, who's a passionate. Hi, Nidia. So what are the ingredients or the tools that professional chefs use that we should also use at home?
Well, the first few things that come to mind is sharp knife is the most important part. People ask me all the time, what's your brands of knives that you use? And I guarantee you, it's not about the brand. It's about the sharpness. I don't care about the brand. To me, the handle has to fit in your hand and the blade has to be very sharp. So what I mean by the handle in your hand, if you grab a knife, a chef knife, and you start chopping and your knuckles are hitting the table, that's not a good handle for you. Find a handle where your knuckles are not touching the table. That's a good knife. That's an example. But most importantly, all your knife needs to be sharp.
And
The next one is the hand blender. A hand blender is a, I don't know, $25 tool that is so excellent to blend anything, puree for soup, puree for whatever. It's a really time-saving ingredient and very, very useful in the kitchen. If you want me to talk about the pans, I will. Every pan that you have that you're going to use for sauteing needs to be a heavy bottom pan. Go ahead.
Michael, hi, Michael. So where do you buy produce for cooking at home? And now he has a question, especially the foie gras that you use in the filet hamburger.
The foie gras, you can buy foie gras at Select Gourmet Food in Bothell. It's just before Bothell. What's the name of that town? Juanita. I think it's in Juanita. It's called Select Gourmet Food. My friend Mohamed there sells foie gras. And then the other place you can buy foie gras is online at D'Artagnan. D'Artagnan is D'Artagnan.
He should know because he's taking a French class at l'Alliance.
Oh, that's right. It's one of the mousquetaires. One of the trois mousquetaires.
Yeah, merci. Related to the knives, John is asking, where do you get your knives sharpened?
There is a place in Kirkland, right across from the old Sur la Table there. There's a knife place, and I somehow must be getting old because I can't remember the name of it. Been there many times. But they do a fabulous job on awesome knife and beautiful sharpening. They know how to sharpen knives. That's another part that's really important.
Thierry, how do you get your inspirations for your recipes?
My inspiration comes from knowing what's in season, what's available on the market now. My inspiration always not come from what is available when I want to make a menu for. So if I'm thinking, for example, right now, what's going to be in season for Easter, let's just use Easter, which is coming up, but it's at least in a month and a half, 2 months from now. I know that for Easter, we'll have peas, we'll have gorgeous fresh curds, we'll have baby lamb, we'll have all those different things. And so I make a list of all the vegetables, all the protein, all the nuts and sweets and all that stuff. And that's how I create my menu. I look at the items and I go, if I take this, yeah, I can take this and that and make that. So it's kind of like a little mad scientist list. You list all your ingredients, and then you mix them, and here's the bomb.
Do you have Proust avait la Madeleine? He had his Madeleine. Do you have something like Proust has?
Well, nothing that I've ever invented. I would never take credit for invention because everything's been done in food at least one time. So we're all thieves. We take from good ideas from other people. Now we make them our own. You make it your own by refining it, by seasoning it differently. But ultimately, everything's been done. So don't go too crazy on calling people geniuses when they're making a dish. I think that's a little bit over the board. The guy who finds the vaccine for COVID, now that's a genius. So do I have a few? I have scrambled egg and caviar, which was a trademark at Rovers for 26 years. Very, very famous at Lulay. And we'll bring it back eventually, but so foie gras, caviar, eggs, and pomme soufflé at Luc were extremely, extremely popular, which is basically a puff sliced potato that looked like a little balloon and fried. You dunk that in a little harissa aioli and ooh.
I think I saw once on YouTube, maybe I saw you. I saw a show. you were showing? Maybe it's still online if they want
Oh
to.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure you can find. I mean, if you look deep, you'll find Thierry on video
Mm-hmm.
probably back 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the first few chefs in the country to have a website and nobody to visit it because because they didn't know what it was. we didn't, that's how early I was.
Oh, Thierry. What's the key to the best gougère?
The key. Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, when you make your pâte à choux, make sure you dry when it's in the pot and you're moving it around, to dry it up to incorporate your eggs. Make sure before you incorporate your eggs, then you dry your dough really, really, really well in that pot, meaning you're cooking it. You want that heat to definitely get rid of some of that moisture. Otherwise, your your gougère, when they bake, are going to be like more soft versus crispy. A gougère needs to be crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, just like me. But anyway, that would be one of the trick. Then you incorporate your eggs slowly, one by one. Make sure you don't rush into that. It's very important. Then the whole thing gets incorporated very nicely with your spatula. And yes, it's a very big workout to make pâte à choux, but it feels good. Your muscles, I mean, you end up with forearm like this. It's not a joke.
How do you, she asks, how do you know if it gets too dry?
It doesn't, because you're reincorporating eggs. It doesn't get to, you will never, well, all right, I'm not going to say it because I'm going to get in trouble, but definitely would be really hard to dry out pâte à choux because pâte à choux starts with water and a lot of water, and then butter, and then flour. So basically, you're making a thick roux, and it's pretty hard to get rid of the moisture that's in there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So there is a question because it's public knowledge. You cooked for Julia Child.
Oh yes,
Uh,
I was a nervous wreck.
How
I
exactly
wasn't.
that happened?
Oh, this is like a long time ago. I mean, Julia's passed away already. Like what, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe. I mean, that was yeah. Unfortunately, I'm old in the cooking world. Um, it's kind of like dogs. I take 7 years every year. Um, this was probably maybe 1996, maybe 2000. That's when I cooked for her the first time. I cooked for her twice. I actually cooked for her the first time. This was an interesting story. Somebody called me out of nowhere in 1996 or 1992, for somewhere around there, and said, "We're doing and Julia was the chairman of, or the creator of, Les Dames d'Escoffier or something like this, a great organization for women chefs in Washington, D.C. And they were having their annual auction. Somebody called me and said, would you like to offer something to the auction? I said, yeah, we'll do a dinner for 16 in a private room at Rover's with Nathan Myhrvold from Microsoft, who at the time was like, he was a big cheese over there looking for the internet highway. So he can talk about technology. And then Julia Child. And there was these two ladies in Washington, D.C. bidding for it. They were stuck at 20, 21,000, 20,000, 20,000. And then suddenly a guy stood up, raised his paddle, and he said $45,000. And everybody was like, who is that? And I can't, of course, I'm not going to remember his name. The CEO of AOL at the time, what's his name? Cole, I want to say. I don't remember his name. Anyway, that guy was the CEO of AOL. At the time, AOL was like the biggest name in web browser and so on and so forth. But anyway, so they came to Seattle. They flew private jet. Well, Julia came separately, but those guys flew private jets, stayed at the Four Seasons, rented limo, and came to Rovers. And my God, it's like, holy cow, the president's coming to town. But no, it wasn't. It was just that guy and 12 of his friend, Julia, a friend, and then Nathan Myhrvold and a friend. It was hilarious. It was so fun. And she's such an incredible woman. She's a no BS person. She's somebody you can trust. She will not lie to you. It might hurt, but she won't lie to you.
So was she happy with what you cooked?
Oh yeah, she was very, very happy. And The next day, we went to a wine tasting at Chateau Saint Michel. There's a little reception for her, and I'm meeting her there. And I go, Julia, how are you doing? She goes, oh, this wine is not very. I go, come with me. She was complaining about the wine at Chateau Saint Michel. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Nobody's paying attention to this. So I walked her to the side into the bar and they have at the winery. And I looked at the bartender. I said, do you know what this is? He said, yes, of course. I said, give me one sample of all those wines you have here. I want to show her that you actually have good wines here. Anyway, we tried some more wine. She was, oh, this is so delicious. Thank you. But she was like, she would tell you she didn't like something.
Speaking of wine, Joan, whom you probably already met, so she says that they absolutely enjoy the mocktails at Rovers.
Oh yeah,
and they still remember them. So how do you approach mocktails and cocktails?
So mocktail, the same way that I approach my food. It's for me, I look at, if I was a bartender, you'd be having a lot more protein and vegetable and fruit in your drinks. Because I'm obviously a chef and I like to build things up. But I would use juices, and we use ginger juice, we use citrus juice, obviously. But for example, we macerate Bing cherry in brandy, actually moonshine, for about 6 months, and then we use those to finish with a little bit of sugar and vanilla, and we use those to finish your Manhattan when we have them in house. And it really makes a big difference when you use fresh fruit versus non-fresh fruit. Tomato is the same thing. I would never make a Bloody Mary with fresh tomato in the winter, but in the summertime, we have so many beautiful tomato. Take your own tomato, blend them, juice them, keep the pulp, use it in your next pasta you're gonna make. Take all that juice and use that for your Bloody Mary. Oh my God, so delicious. And you can make clear one if you just take the tomato and cut them in small pieces, put them in a cheesecloth, overnight in your refrigerator with a bucket underneath, you'll have tomato water. So that tomato water can be mixed, for example, with gin or with vodka, and add, let's say, you could add a little bit of fennel or chervil in the summertime, just a little bit of chervil oil on top, and then squeeze a lime all the way around and create a nice little lime ream. Oh, when is summer coming again? I thought it was starting yesterday.
We will take 2 more questions as we approach the end. What's your favorite thing to cook at home?
People ask me that question all the time. What's your favorite thing to cook? Anything that's fresh, I can put my hands on right here, right now, obviously will be the best. Right now in my fridge, I'll tell you what I have. In the fridge, I have a whole chicken right now. That's going to go for dinner tonight, where we're going to roast it, and we're going to use it for about 3 more dinners, maybe some lunch, put that in tacos, soups. But in the fridge, I have kale, I have celery, carrots, onion, always, ginger, eggs, obviously, cream, just because I have to, and and I always have chicken stock because we buy a whole chicken and we make our own stocks all the time. So chicken stock. So with that, you can create so many different things. I have beans. I have a bag of chickpeas. I have tomato. Right now, I use canned tomato Marzano, beautiful whole tomato in juice. Those are delicious, really good tomato. Pasta, whatever, pizza. I have a pizza crust from, if you haven't seen this in the market yet, at the Metropolitan Market in Queen Anne, and they were out yesterday, so don't go today because I don't know if he's replenished it yet. But Tom Douglas has this pizza crust, wood fire burn. Oh my God, it's in the freezer section. You just buy 3 at a time, put that in your freezer. He just took pizza to a different place. I'm taking my beautiful roasted chicken, crumble that on the top of the pizza, some beautiful fresh goat cheese, basil everywhere. No, basil after I bake it. I bake first and I finish with basil at the end. A little bit of olive oil, some sauteed mushroom, put all that on top of the pizza, put it in the oven, warm it up for a few minutes, take it out, sprinkle with basil julienne. Quick snack for lunch with a nice green salad on the side. That's also another reason I like to cook. I love to eat.
The last question, Thierry. If one should master just one French dish, what should it be?
I would go with bœuf bourguignon because it's not hard to make. It's a time thing to make. But once it's made, first of all, you don't make it for two, you make it for a few days. So that's an advantage. When it's done and cooled off, you can put in small container in your freezer and rewarm it up a week later or 2 weeks later. So that's one. I love dishes like that, especially at home. You know, practicality need to come into the work because nobody cooks every single meal at home. Well, everybody has for the last year, but you know what I'm saying. It's nice to have, oh, what's in the freezer? Yeah, let me pop that bourguignon. I'll have that for lunch tomorrow. And it's also a big, beautiful classic because it teaches you, if you do it well and you learn the recipe correctly, it teaches you how to sear, how to braise, how to roast, there's many different parts of the cooking in the stew that is really teaching you many different style of braising the meat, searing the meat, caramelizing the onion, sauteed the mushroom correctly, all those different things you learn. So it's a great, I would recommend people to practice it once. And if you don't like it, you should just come to Luc because we sell it every day.
We really hope to be able to be back once the pandemics are over. Thank you so much. Merci de tout cœur.
Great pleasure. Merci beaucoup.
Une fascinante rencontre. Comme d'habitude, un grand plaisir, extremely great pleasure to talk to you.
And you said I was a vice president of the Alliance. I want to clear that up. I'm vice president of the board.
Yeah. Board of directors at l'Alliance Française de Seattle. Everyone, please do not forget the next Rencontre will be in March as well, because this is the month of Francophonie, le mois de la Francophonie. We are celebrating the French language and Francophone cultures. So the next guest is Philippe Hunot, the delegate of the Quebec government in Los Angeles. We will meet on March 16th at 4:30 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure to see you online. We have plenty of events during the month of March. Please check our website, AFSeattle.org. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup et vive l'Alliance française.
Thank you. Au revoir.